Hello Void, day 7 now. We're making progress and keeping up the pace, so far so good. Back to Netflix for today, and okay, so my trying to randomize things is not as easy to work with on Netflix. Their setup isn't nearly as friendly as Tubi of just throwing things up in a completely abstruse order, while I've worked out a system of dice to work out with Shudder, but for Netflix, it's mostly just seeing whatever's top of whatever first pops up, which, because of what I've liked in the past, it kind of is top loading for me, things that it thinks I would like, or that I haven't watched for a long time and have seen before, because today's one I'd seen before and on Netflix, but it's been a couple of years. So 50-50 on how random some of the ones from Netflix are going to be, but at least as I keep chewing through, we'll see what it does for the variety. But on the other hand, I actually get to see and talk about some decent movies from it, so I'm not going to complain too much. And for the most part, I'm not actually picking and choosing, it's just whatever happens to be coming up. But today it got me The Ritual, which I had seen before, and I liked, so okay. Now, this was a 2017 film, so definitely more of a recent vintage, and it's, I believe, British production. Now, this one involves a group of friends who go hiking in the woods. Now, why are they hiking in the woods? Well, they're doing their annual guys trip, and none of them want to go hiking in the woods. But 3 months before this began, one of their friends who did want to go hiking in the woods got killed brutally in front of one of them due to a robbery gone wrong. And so, because this is what he wanted to do, they're going through the hike up towards northern Sweden in his honor to essentially lay like a grave marker for him out on the hills that he wanted to see so much. Okay, so all goes well with that. None of them, I mean, a few of them like the view, but it's clear that several of them aren't too much of a fan of the hike. So, as they continue on through the one of them falls and twists his leg, making it so he's unlikely to be able to handle too much of this hike. And when they've got 14 hours still to go while trekking, could be a little dicey for him. However, they decide to cut straight through these woods rather than the hills that they've been traveling on, and that should shave a lot of time off. And that was their mistake, as these woods are not too fond of having them in there. So they go in for a while, but they get this feeling of being lost or not sure which way to go as a storm moves in, and by the time they think they should have been there, they still seem to be nowhere near their destination and have to hold up in a cabin. And this cabin seems to have a strange idol up in up in the top floor, and a bunch of strange symbols are carved all around it. After a night of terrifying nightmares, well, they're a bit rattled but have to press on, and things get worse from there for them. Now, again, I really enjoyed this film. It's very atmospheric. They do a good job with tension and the overall feel of the locations. They do a good job not lingering on whatever's following them too much up until the end part. So, unlike a lot of movies get this balance a little bit off because most movies either show their monster right away, which can work, but at the same time, usually works better to leave things a little bit in the shadows for a while. But some do it too much and never fully give you a look at what the thing is, which fine stylistically, but me, I love monsters. I want to at least get one good look at the thing. And this one does do a good job of that towards the end. And This movie overall does a really good job. It's very character driven. You get to learn a little bit about these guys as they're going on, their personalities. The dialogue is very strong in this film as they're just bullshitting with each other on their trip. It's it's fun to see these guys interact, especially when things start going terrible. I mean, this also does a lot into dealing with grief, as the main character who we're following is one who saw his friend die in the liquor store, and everyone else was outside at the time. So not only is he dealing with the grief and whether or not his friends blame him for their friend's death, but one of the cool things that they keep doing is essentially he keeps having these nightmare visions of being back in that liquor store. So occasionally you'll see him turn around a tree, and he'll be stepping into the liquor store, but still like overgrown with vegetation, and he'll re-see scenes from it. And some very cool effects there. The monster design is interesting, and I believe it's based on something from the Norse mythology or some folklore from the region, which was cool looking. Overall, I really don't have too many complaints about this one. For me, this movie felt like what the Blair Witch Project should have been. For me, I know Blair Witch is kind of it was a phenomenon at the time. I don't dislike it, but I found it kind of boring, to be honest. This movie is like the Blair Witch where things actually happen. There's a lot of going on, and usually, yes, a lot of just outside of what the characters are seeing, but it's enough to really lay the tension in. And the characters themselves are charismatic enough to really carry this. So I don't want to go into too many of the details for the later aspects of the film, but the ritual does pay out pretty well overall in atmosphere and interactions. It's definitely one of the more strong movies to come out in the last 5 years now. Yeah, I'll say 5 years. So this one's not quite up into the 5 range for me, but I'd give it a 4. 4 MacGuffins definitely for the ritual. It's very well done. I don't think I've got anything else really to go into this one because I'd like to keep this one a little bit vague. I think this one's mainly distributed on Netflix. I don't know if it ever got like a physical release, but it should have. And I believe it is like Netflix got the rights to it, so it's only available there on streaming. I could be wrong on that, but just my recollection. But it was definitely one of the first, back when streaming was starting to get a bunch of its own movies going. This was one of the first ones from one of the production companies to go that route, and I believe it was very successful. So I'm a fan of this one. What can I say? All right. See you guys tomorrow.